And everybody, it is January 13th. It's about 6:26 a.m. And today we are going to talk about surrender. What is surrender? Why surrender? How does surrender work with first step? A lot of people don't want to surrender. They don't want to surrender to their addiction. They don't want to say they have a problem. They don't want to admit it. This is the first step. You need to do this. If you don't do this, then you're not going to be able to admit other problems in other areas of your life. So the first thing that we need to do is learn how to admit a problem. And today we're going to talk about surrender. What is it like to surrender? What is surrender? How does surrender work in other areas of life, not just addiction? So that's what we're going to get into today. But before we get started, my name is Jimi Diamond. I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor. I'm personal long-term recovery. I have a bachelor's degree in elementary education. I do a lot, helped open a bunch of treatment facilities. I've been doing this for several years, working with addicts hands-on. Today's episode is dedicated to Matt Stratton. So today's episode is dedicated to Matt Stratton. He was a friend of mine from home who passed away due to drugs and the lifestyle. We had gone to college together. He was a couple grades below me, just a really fucking bright kid, funny kid, always laughing, always smiling, very popular, and he was just a good kid. He ended up overdosing, passing away. Very, very sad, dude. He had a very, very bright future ahead of him. But today's episode is dedicated to him. Also, we do not represent any 12-step program, any treatment center, anything like that. We just do this for free public education and information. I want to give away to you guys what was so freely given to me. Okay, that being said, let's get into it. Today's topic is surrender. Okay, now surrender outside of 12-step programs is if you go to Google, that's what I do. I just go to Google, type in surrender definition, and I get cease resistance to an enemy or opponent and submit to their authority. So when I think of surrender, I often think of being at war and people surrendering in war. Now imagine a whole bunch of people come and swarm us with guns and they're like, get the fuck on the ground, get on the ground. It's like, okay, I need to surrender. If I don't surrender, I'm going to die. If I try to fight these people who have guns against me, they're going to shoot me. If I try to talk my way out of it, fight my way out of it, there's no escaping this other than death. So that is why we surrender. If we do not surrender, we're going to die. If we could fight, we would. But surrender means that we have come to believe that we can no longer fight. And we cease resistance to whoever is forcing us to surrender and submit to their authority. So stop resisting. Like you think of a cop, like if you're getting arrested, let's say you're getting arrested, cops will say stop resisting. If you do not stop resisting, you're going to have more problems. Either you surrender to the authority of the police officer or you get another charge, which is resisting arrest, okay? So you have to surrender in these situations. This has nothing to do with addiction. This is just surrendering to authority in fucking the world, the community, right? So if I don't submit to their authority or cease resistance to a police officer, I'm going to have more problems. If I'm at war and I'm not ceasing resistance to the enemy or submitting to their authority, then I'm going to have a problem. Now, you can start recovery without complete surrender, but you need to get complete surrender in order to stay in recovery. Likewise, with any of these situations, say you surrender to the police officer, you go to jail, and you submit to their authority. If you don't submit, say you go to jail, if you don't submit to the judge, to the lawyer, to the CO or whatever, then you're going to have problems. It's going to be even more. So this surrender has to stay throughout the whole stay, okay? As well as, like, say you're in a war and you're a prisoner of war and they say, okay, now you're going to be digging holes. If you do not dig those holes, they will kill you. That's just what it is, bro. If you don't keep on digging the holes, doing what they say, you start taking your will back, you start talking shit, you start slacking off, they'll just fucking kill you. They don't have a problem with it. Now, what the fuck does this have to do with addiction? Surrender's first step stuff. The first thing we need to do is surrender to our disease of addiction. Okay, and this is talks a little bit about this. This is all first step type stuff. So if you're new to this channel or you're just starting to get clean, this is going to be a very solution oriented class for you. Now, we surrender to the disease of addiction. We surrender to how bad our life was. We surrender to all the choices that we had made up to this point. And then from there, we practice this surrender to something that will help us, for the hope that we can stay clean and fix our life together, right? The hope of the soldier in war, and the reason that he digs holes is because he hopes that he'll be saved by his buddies the next day and be able to go home and see his family. The reason that someone in jail doesn't commit more crimes is because they hope that if they don't, they'll get out sooner. So this is just kind of how it works and makes sense in relativity to the world, and building a bridge between the world and your addiction. And hopefully this can help you learn how to apply these types of principles into your everyday living. So you may see this at work. You may have to submit to the authority of your boss, cease resistance. If you don't, you'll get fired. You may have to surrender to a partner. If you don't surrender to the partner, cease your resistance, they'll fucking break up with you, or you'll get into an argument. You know what I mean? So there's many instances where you're going to have to use this. This is why the first step is so essential. This is why doing a solid first step is the foundation of your recovery, because this thing that we're going to talk about today, the surrender that we're going to talk about today, is something that you're going to have to practice every single fucking day, dude. Every single day you're going to have to learn to surrender to what not to surrender to, so on and so forth. So 7 minutes into this, we haven't even gotten into the literature. I'm just breaking down what is surrender, why it's important, and all that. So now we're going to get into the lit, okay? So January 13th, 2022, surrender to win. Listen up. Help for addicts begins only when we are able to admit complete defeat. So that's what I'm saying. You know, you're not going to be able to help yourself unless you admit that you've been completely defeated in whatever area that you are surrendering in. Listen up. Complete defeat. What a concept. That must mean surrender. Surrender. To give up absolutely. To quit with no reservations. Reservation is an area of our program that we have reserved for relapse. It's any time in the future that somebody is thinking of getting high, whether it's 10 minutes from now, 10 years from now, 10 days from now, after treatment, after the meeting, at a wedding, when someone dies. Doesn't matter what the fucking reservation is. If you have any reservation in the future of I'm going to get high at this time, that could be detrimental for your recovery. So this is talking about how do we completely surrender with no reservations, absolutely give up. Listen, to pop up our hands and quit fighting. I quit, I surrender, that's it. Maybe to put up our hand at our first meeting and admit we're addicts. That could be the first step in admitting powerlessness and surrender, is just raising your hand and saying, I'm Jimmy, I'm an addict. That's it. How do we know when we've taken a first step that will allow us to live drug-free? So how do I know when I have surrendered? I want to know, how do I know when I've surrendered? What are the signs that are going to tell me that I'm surrendering successfully? Listen up. We know because once we've taken that gigantic step, we never have to use again just for today. That's it. It's not easy, but it's very simple. So how do we know we've taken the first step that will allow us to live a drug-free life? Once we're just staying clean day after day. So if you are clean today, then you've surrendered. That's it. If you're not clean, or your desire to use, your mental obsession is all over the place, you're having a difficult time surrendering, rely on a power greater than yourself to reinforce that surrender. But if we haven't admitted that we're an addict, if we haven't began to admit unmanageability in our lives fully, dude, then we're not surrendering. And until then, if you haven't realized that you don't have to get high today, you're not surrendering. Just for today, not getting high, that's surrender to win. We work the first step. We accept that, yes, we are addicts. One is too many, 1,000's never enough. We've proven that to ourselves enough times. We admit that we cannot handle drugs in any form. We admit it, we say it out loud, if necessary. Bro, so here you go. This is all first step stuff. We're talking about accepting that we're addicts, accepting that we have this mental and physical dependence on drugs or alcohol, on a substance, thing, or activity without incurring adverse effects. So if I stop this, then I'm going to have a problem. We've proven that to ourselves enough time that I can't get sober, can't get clean, and we admit that we can't handle any drugs. I tried just smoking pot, just doing coke, just drinking, none of these things work. And when we admit it out, when we may have to admit it out loud, we may have to actually say it, but this is talking about a whole research. We've tried to fucking control our drug use and failed. And these are all ways that we learn to admit our powerlessness over drugs and surrender to win. We take the first step at the beginning of our day. For one day, this admission frees us, just for today, from the need to live out our addiction all over again. Dude, so you want to surrender? It's a just for today thing. And the same thing with the prisoner of war, the same thing with someone who's been arrested. Every single day you wake up, you surrender. If you don't, you die. This is why it is that's why you can not fully surrender and start recovery, but in order to maintain that recovery and continue it, you have to surrender every single day. And that's what this is saying for your recovery and for other areas of life. You just have to surrender. We surrendered to this disease, we give up, we quit, but in quitting, we win. And that's the paradox of the first step. We surrender to win, and by surrendering, we gain a greater power than we ever imagined possible. So if you surrender in war, you get to live, and hopefully you get to see your family again, which you couldn't even have imagined possible. You get to live a life like a normal person. When we surrender to cancer, that gives us the ability to fight it. Okay, I have cancer. Like someone who has cancer, you have to admit that you have cancer before you start the treatment plan. You have to admit that this cancer is going to get worse. There's nothing I can do to control it. And if I allow it to keep on going down this road, it's only going to get worse. So you need to actually surrender to the disease in order to allow doctors to help you, to allow these medications to help you, to go through the surgery, to do everything. It starts with admitting I have cancer. The same with this. Before you start tackling your addiction, you need to admit that I am an addict. I've tried to control it this way and that way. Nothing has worked, which is why I'm coming forth in front of you asking for help. Okay, listen up. This is it. Just for today, I admit that I am powerless over my addiction. I will surrender to win. Admit that you are powerless over cancer. You are powerless over being a prisoner of war. You are powerless over having a flat tire. All these things that you are powerless over, we need to admit that before we can even get into the solution. So admitting that I'm an addict allows me to accept help to fix it, right? So you need to start, we need to start admitting these things every single day in order to allow the solution to come into our world, and we can use those to successfully manage our life. Surrender to win. I hope this helped you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in tomorrow for the next one. And if you have any questions, comments, please make sure you subscribe right now. Subscribe right the fuck now. I should have had you subscribe before. If you haven't subscribed already, go do that. Like, comment below. What was it like for you to surrender? Have you surrendered? Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me I'm a jackass. I don't care, dude. I'm going to keep on making these videos. I hope it helps somebody out there. If you or somebody is struggling with addiction, you're not alone. Please reach out. You can reach out to us at Attainable Dreams LLC at gmail.com. We'll be sure to put you in touch with a professional who can get you the help you need. You don't have to get high no matter what, dude. No matter what, you just don't get high, and you just don't do it. You just don't do it. All right, I'll catch you guys later.